Welcome. Today, we're going to discuss a critical issue in the criminal justice system that has resulted in a lot of injustice and wrongful convictions. That issue is the illegal withholding of exculpatory evidence by prosecutors, who are ethically and legally required to provide all exculpatory evidence to the defendant in a criminal case. Prosecutors can withhold evidence if they may be motivated by a desire to win at all costs. This is particularly true in high-profile cases or cases in which there is significant public pressure to secure a conviction. Prosecutors may also withhold evidence from the defense because of a confirmation bias, or the tendency to seek out and interpret information in a way that confirms pre-existing beliefs or assumptions. In other words, prosecutors may have a strong belief in the defendant's guilt and may only see evidence that supports this belief, while ignoring or downplaying evidence that may point to the defendant's innocence. The Supreme Court, in the case of Brady v. Maryland, established that the defendant must have access to all evidence that may be relevant to their case, and that they should be able to mount an effective defense. This has come to be known as the Brady Rule. There have been numerous cases where prosecutors have illegally withheld exculpatory evidence from the defense, resulting in wrongful convictions, unfair trials, and increased sentences for innocent people. For examples of such cases include Adnan Syed, Stephen Avery, the West Memphis Three, and Anthony Ray Hinton. In the case of Adnan Syed, who was convicted of murdering his ex-girlfriend Hae Min Lee in 1999, Syed's conviction was overturned in 2022 after new evidence emerged that cast doubt on his guilt. The prosecution withheld potentially exculpatory evidence, such as an alibi witness who claimed to have seen Syed at a library at the time of the murder and a tip about another possible suspect who had threatened Lee before her death. In the case of Stephen Avery, who convicted of murdering photographer Teresa Halbach in 2005, Avery's conviction has been challenged by his lawyer Kathleen Zellner. The prosecution withheld potentially exculpatory evidence, such as a CD containing information about a computer belonging to Halbach's ex-boyfriend, who Zellner alleges was involved in her death, and a bone fragment found in a quarry that could have belonged to Halbach. In the case of the West Memphis Three, where three men were convicted as teenagers in 1994 of murdering three young boys in West Memphis, Arkansas. Damian Eccles, Jesse Miskelly Jr., and Jason Baldwin were sentenced to death, life imprisonment plus 2 20-year sentences, and life imprisonment respectively. After spending 18 years in prison, the men were released in 2011 under a rare legal deal known as an offered plea, which allowed them to maintain their innocence while pleading guilty to lesser charges. The prosecution withheld evidence that could have proved their innocence. In the case of Anthony Ray Hinton, who wrongly convicted of the 1985 murders of two fast food restaurant managers in Birmingham, Alabama, Hinton spent 28 years on death row until he was released in 2015. The prosecution withheld potentially exculpatory evidence, including a faulty eyewitness identification, a coerced confession, and flawed ballistics testimony. The consequences of withholding exculpatory evidence are disastrous, not only for the defendant but for the entire justice system. Withholding exculpatory evidence erodes public trust in the criminal justice system, making it more challenging for people to believe in the fairness and impartiality of the courts. Many prosecutors, who engage in this behavior, are not held accountable. This is because prosecutors enjoy a certain level of immunity from legal action, known as prosecutorial immunity. However, it's time to take a stand and ensure that prosecutors who engage in misconduct are held accountable under the same set of laws. We must demand that the justice system upholds its ethical and legal obligations to ensure that all defendants have access to all relevant evidence. The illegal withholding of exculpatory evidence by prosecutors is a grave injustice and a violation of our rights as citizens. It is up to us to demand accountability and fight for a fair and just system for all. Thank you for watching.